rain had been falling for 3 days straight, turning the small coastal town of Greyhaven into a drowned skeleton of creaking houses, flooded alleys, and deserted streets. Nobody remembered the last time the storm had lasted this long, though some whispered it was the sea itself that had called it. On the fourth night, when lightning forked across the sky and thunder roared like a broken god, Elena found the ring. She had been walking home from her late shift at the diner, her hair plastered to her cheeks, shoes soaked through, when something glimmered beneath the street lamp. At first, she thought it was a shard of glass, but as she stooped, her fingers touched cold metal, smoother than water, strangely warm at its core. It was a ring, silver so bright it almost shimmered in the dark, etched with lines that curled like waves but never seemed to stay still. The longer she stared, the more the patterns appeared to move, as if alive. Without thinking, Elena slipped it onto her finger. The storm hushed for a heartbeat. Every sound in Greyhaven seemed to stop, the rain frozen mid-fall, the wind silenced, her own breath caught in her throat. Then, as suddenly as it had come, the world roared back, and Elena stumbled, clutching her chest. She laughed nervously. "It's just a ring." But deep down, she knew it wasn't. That night, sleep refused her. When she finally drifted off, she dreamed of the ocean. Endless, black, with hands reaching from the depths. A whisper coiled through the waves, ancient and patient. "Return what was taken." She woke gasping, sweat clinging to her skin. The ring pulsed faintly against her finger like a heartbeat. At work the next morning, the diner felt different. Regulars who usually greeted Elena with easy smiles fell silent when they noticed the band of silver. Old Mrs. Whitlock, who claimed to know every superstition the town had, dropped her coffee cup the instant she saw it and muttered something about the drowned bride. When Elena pressed her, Mrs. Whitlock only shook her head. "Child, take it off before it's too late." But when Elena tried, the ring refused to budge. By the end of the week, strange things began happening. Mirrors clouded when she approached, and sometimes her reflection moved half a second slower than she did. Doors she swore she'd locked stood open in the morning, and each night the sound of dripping water echoed through her apartment though no faucet leaked. Then came the figure. On the seventh night, Elena awoke to the sound of footsteps squelching across her floorboards as though soaked with seawater. She turned on her lamp, but no one was there. Yet in the corner of the room, shadows clung too thickly, and for the briefest moment, she saw her, a woman in a tattered wedding dress, hair floating around her head as if submerged, her eyes dark hollows where seawater poured endlessly. The woman raised a hand, pointing to the ring. Elena screamed. The light flickered out. When it returned, the room was empty, but her bedsheets were drenched with salt water. Elena couldn't shake the image of the drowned bride. Every night after, she felt the presence hovering, waiting, closer each time. Her co-workers noticed the deep shadows beneath her eyes, her distracted movements, but she told no one. Who would believe her? By the 10th day, she was desperate. She researched Greyhaven's history in the town archives, combing through yellowed newspapers and brittle ledgers. That's when she uncovered the legend. Over 100 years ago, on a stormy night much like the one she had found the ring, a young bride named Seraphine Calloway had drowned at sea. Some said she leapt from the cliffs when her groom abandoned her. Others whispered the waves claimed her as sacrifice. When her body was recovered, her hand still bore a silver ring etched with living tides. Locals believed it was cursed, binding her spirit to the sea until the ring was returned. Elena's stomach turned cold. She had the ring, and the bride wanted it back. That night, she left town, driving toward the cliffs where Seraphine's life had ended. The storm had returned, lightning ripping across the horizon, waves slamming against rocks with the rage of 1,000 drums. Elena fought the howling wind, clutching the glowing ring that pulsed stronger with every step closer to the sea. On the cliff's edge, the bride was waiting. Her gown clung to her thin frame, translucent, her hair drifting in phantom currents. Salt water poured endlessly from her hollow eyes, running down her cheeks like tears. Elena held up her hand. "You want it?" The bride nodded slowly, her gaze fixed on the ring. Elena tried to pull it free, but again it wouldn't budge. Panic clawed at her chest as the drowned woman began gliding forward, each step leaving puddles of black water on the earth. "No," Elena cried, tugging harder, her skin blistering beneath the band. Take it. I don't want it. But the ring tightened, searing into her flesh. The wind shrieked louder, and the cliff beneath her cracked. Seraphine reached out, her fingers cold as ice as they closed around Elena's wrist. The world blurred. The sea roared. And then Elena was falling. When she opened her eyes, she was underwater. She should have been drowning, but instead she could breathe. The ocean around her pulsed like a living thing, glowing with bioluminescent light. Seraphine floated ahead, waiting. You were chosen. A voice echoed, not spoken aloud but inside Elena's mind. The bride's lips never moved. Elena shook her head. No, I didn't choose this. The ring chooses its bearer. To carry the grief of the sea. To keep me bound. Realization struck like a knife. The ring wasn't cursed, it was a prison. Whoever wore it became the jailer of Seraphine's spirit. I don't want this. Elena screamed. Seraphine's hollow gaze softened, almost sorrowful. Neither did I. And with that, the drowned bride pressed her hands to Elena's chest. The ring flared with blinding light, burning through her veins, filling her lungs with salt and flame. Elena screamed as the ocean swallowed her whole, then everything went dark. When the townsfolk found her the next morning, Elena lay on the beach, pale and silent. The storm had ended. The sky was bright for the first time in weeks. On her finger, the silver ring gleamed, cold and immovable. She never spoke again. But sometimes, when the tide was high and the sea raged against the cliffs, locals swore they saw a woman in a tattered dress walking the shoreline. Not Seraphine. Not the old bride. It was Elena, the new keeper of the ring.